All right. Hey guys, Aaron Baker here with Commissioner Pat Farr for Lane County, and just wanted to sit down with him, talk Rideshares. Pat, if you introduce yourself to everyone.
My name is Pat Farr. I'm a chair of the Board of County Commissioners. This is my last week of being chair. We take turns, and this is my turn.
Okay. First off, have you ever used a rideshare, like say Uber or Lyft, for example?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And it's recently the City Council of Eugene brought it back on the table that they're going to sit down and talk about bringing possibly rideshares into the area.
Sure.
I don't think there's a work session scheduled yet, and so we don't really know what possibly that will entail and what they'll vote on for redoing the ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
What does the county have anything to do with rideshares?
We don't, generally speaking. Now, if we were to pass an order for county-wide use of rideshare and a municipality didn't allow it, then it wouldn't really be worthwhile to have it in the county. If somebody, for instance, got, well, the airport's inside the city limits, but if they landed someplace and needed a rideshare into Eugene, and Eugene didn't allow it, then it wouldn't make any sense at all that they would have to stop at the city limits. So it makes sense that the metropolitan area be the one that initiate it.
Okay. You're not going to really get any rideshare company to come into this area without the main populace body having that available. So,
and since the Eugene Airport, for instance, is a part of the city, then clearly, rideshare wouldn't operate there. Rideshare, whatever it may be, Uber, rideshare, which
sure.
I have a child who uses rideshare pretty regularly. No, I'm sorry, Lyft is the one that they use in San Francisco.
Sure. Okay. Do you see a need for the county to have any regulations on rideshares?
I think that we need to facilitate that kind of availability of rides for people, whatever way we can do it. For instance, we do have county-wide authority on a lot of different things, including room tax, for instance. Room tax is assessed by the county and comes to the county for distribution, and it goes to different it's redistributed to different places, but it comes through the county. So it makes a great deal of sense that people would have an option of using something other than commercial taxi. Now, I like commercial taxis. They work fine. I have nothing against them. But when I'm in Washington, D.C., which every now and then, once every couple of years, I go by for a few days. For instance, Uber is the one that I use. And it's fantastic just being able to stand outside the hotel and within a few moments not have to have a cash transaction with the driver, for instance. There are so many positives to it that make it worthwhile, particularly in a large city. So I'm personally in favor of it, and I hope that the city can come up with an agreement that allows whatever service it is to operate inside of the city's operating sphere of influence.
Okay. So, and if they were to do that, you don't see a need for the county to regulate it in any way?
I don't know for certain. We would take a look at that, certainly, would have council look at that and see if it is something that needed to be done. I don't know what happens in other communities. For instance, I was in Columbus just recently, Columbus, Ohio, and operating the airport, I believe, is outside of the city limits, and I used Uber to get in.
Okay.
And so
you were able to pass out of city limits into the county without any restrictions?
Seems so, yeah. None were offered. In D.C., you can hop from Washington, D.C. to Alexandria, for instance, across the river into a different state.
Fluid.
Yeah.
So it seems in those areas, in those metropolitan areas, we're talking within city borders,
mm-hmm.
those cities apparently are not restricting rideshares in any way, and the services.
And going from the District of Columbia into Virginia, that's an example of crossing a state line. So
sure.
Clearly there are ways to do it that have been
sure.
traveled by people doing it. So it can be done.
I mean, we shouldn't see a problem then, really. I mean, if you wanted to go to Corvallis for an OSU football game or something, to hop on Uber, if it was allowed in Eugene to be able to do that, cross the county borders.
Based on my experience, I don't believe there are restrictions. I don't know for certain.
Sure.
Once again, whenever a service operates, it's a good idea for the jurisdiction to have their counsel or attorneys take a look and make sure there isn't something that needs to be done. But making it legal, safe, fair, all of those things are important.
Yeah. Do you? I know one of the arguments was the insurance requirements for the ride shares. I believe the color scheming. Taxis are required to have all the same color vehicles and post their prices on the outside. Do you see problems with that at the county level at all?
Not that I'm aware of. The taxis operate inside the county pretty freely and run regularly, so I know of no restriction there.
Okay. So you would use a rideshare?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Not here, clearly, but I do when I travel to large metropolitan areas. Sometimes it's less expensive than taxis. Sometimes I don't know if it's less or more expensive, but usually it is more convenient.
Yeah. And is it my understanding correct that the county can't really do anything to push the city in any way to allow this sort of regulation?
The city of Eugene possesses something that cities love to have, and that's what's called home rule. That is to say, they have their self-determination on many different things that cannot be interfered by even the state. So now there are certain things that we can ask the city to do. As the Board of Health, for instance, if we pass an order as the Board of Health, we can make that the entire county, including cities. But taxation, for instance, or fees, it's difficult for us to tell the city to collect fees for the county.
Okay. I know, these ride shares are definitely a new technology that's with smartphones coming around. And one new technology now that's even happening is driverless cars.
Yeah.
Do you know, would you be opposed to driverless cars in...
The concept kind of frightens me because I don't trust a car when somebody else is driving. I only trust it when I'm driving. So, I'd need to know more about that.
Sure.
The technology is kind of futuristic, for me.
Yeah. It's happening fast.
It is. It is. My son, my middle son, who is a professor, highly educated, said, "Watch out because it's going to be happening very, very soon." And I'm wondering, well, how do I get to 1250 Kirk Road out by Fernridge Dam in a driverless car?
Don't know. But possibly I think Uber has been one that has played around with these driverless cars. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a possibility that just simply opening up these ride shares will open up more things like that.
I can see that with a point-to-point application, but as far as unrestricted driving down non-paved roads, which many people find themselves doing for whatever reason from that time to time, boy, is the technology there to keep you out of that gully? I don't know.
Sure. I imagine then you still have to be a licensed driver and take over it at some point.
I'm sure the people who are running the technology are way ahead of my thinking on that one. I hope so, anyway.
It's quite possible. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No. I think I love the discussion because, once again, a competitive market environment is something that everybody usually benefits from. When you have restrictions on market, then usually the restrictions affect the end user.
Is there anything you'd suggest that be done regarding ride shares?
I think that people who have used it and are very satisfied with the services that are received need to talk to the people who are making decisions regarding it. If you live in the city of Eugene, talk to your city councilor, and let them know that I go to every now and then I go to San Francisco and I use Lyft, and it works.
Okay. Do you know anything about the other services taxis are providing? I believe the argument has been brought up that they may be providing rides to low-income or disabled individuals or anything. Are you aware of any of that?
I'm not familiar with that. I know they do provide other services, but so does Lyft. Go get a meal from a restaurant and bring it to my home.
Okay.
They do that. Maybe. That's not something I've used. I know that Lyft does that in San Francisco because I've been at my son's house and Lyft has shown up with a meal.
Okay.
So.
I'm not quite sure either. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah.
And I would assume nobody wants to lose if really there are some things put in place where these taxis are offering rides for disabled people
Yeah.
at lower rates or whatnot. I would hope we wouldn't lose something like that with more competition of these
Yeah.
larger national companies.
Competition can sometimes bring about an undesired response. I think that sometimes you hear about the competition in airlines, for instance, makes it so it's not as convenient to carry luggage, maybe. I don't know. We need to kind of keep an eye out for that. The people who pay the bill, need to keep an eye out for that. That is the end user. And make sure that we're not losing something by adding something. That's something that's pretty dear to us. That's always something that we have to worry about, or we have to be cognizant of, is that sometimes there are other effects that don't end up with the desired effect that you would hope for. But in reality, is it a good idea to be able to get on your phone and say, I'm at such and such an address, I'm going to such and such an address, and you look at your phone and say, well, a purple Toyota Corolla is going to pick you up in 3 minutes. I'm good with that.
Yeah, okay. It's a convenient.
And the driver's name is James. They give you
There
that
you go.
information. I use it in Portland. I got to tell you, the other day, I had to drop my wife's car off at a dealership in Beaverton, and I needed to be downtown Portland for business, and I was going to take Max. And the guy said, no, dialed in Uber. Uber was there in 3 minutes. The driver said, well, if we go the route it's prescribing, then it's going to take us a long time, but I got away. And he took me down, and I was downtown Portland in 10 minutes when the app, the GPS was saying it's going to take you 22 minutes. So, there are definite benefits. My son and I went to a soccer match in Columbus, and the traffic was horrendous because people were all going to the soccer match, and we were in Uber, and the Uber driver was in the line, and they said, well, we're gonna have to skip this line. And he took us on a route that skipped the line. I would never have found that route, and I don't know that a taxi driver would have been inclined to find the route. But since the Uber driver was being paid a fixed fee, it made him more inclined to shorten his delivery rate.
Okay.
So those were direct benefits that I personally, in the last few weeks, have received. So a couple of months anyway, have received. So good stuff has happened. Now you could probably find some people who can tell you bad stuff. Well, my Uber. Now I'm not even going to say what the bad stuff might be because that would be full speculation. I don't know of any bad stuff.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Everything, there's pros and cons.
I had one Uber driver who wanted to show my wife and I pictures of his family, and he was doing it while I was driving, and I wish he wasn't. But so you can control that. So
Sure.
Just keep your eye on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you for sitting down, taking your time. I know you're
Indeed.
busy, and thanks for your public service and all the time you're
Well, thanks, Aaron.
putting into this.
I enjoy the work, and making it an easier place for people to live. That's what it's all about. And I hope that everybody who runs for elected office is trying to just make it easier for people to be satisfied with the way they get to live.
Yeah. And I know, being county commissioner for Lane County, it's a huge county. It's a great county. You get the mountains, you got the coast, you have the wineries in the Lorraine Valley area. I mean,
you can ski, you can surf. Not many places you can do that.
That's great. All right, thanks,
Right on.
Pat.
Thank you, Aaron. It's good to see you. Take care.